Okay, I would like to welcome everyone to our November 21st meeting. And as always, we'll open with invocation, and I'll call on Vice Chairman David Williams to lead us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you're so inclined, please bow your heads in prayer. Wise and loving Father, thank you on behalf of all those gathered here today, as well as those who are watching online. Thank you for your abundant blessings. Thank you for the gift of life itself. Thank you for loving us also from your gracious nature. As we assemble today, we humbly ask that you grant us wisdom to govern in these challenging times, a sense of the needs and welfare of the people, the capacity to work together in harmony where there is honest disagreement, and personal peace in our lives and joy in our tasks. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to call on County Manager Mark Watson right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is the custom of the Board of County Commissioners, when we have commission members that are transitioning off the board and it is their last full official meeting, the board recognizes its members for their tenure on the board and their service to the board and the residents of the county. So at this time, Vice Chair Williams, if you will please come, and Chairman Ray.
Dennis, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to serve with you on this board. It's been a double pleasure to serve with you as an officer of this Board of County Commissioners. I've learned a lot in my first year, and I've learned even more doing this job in my second year. And frankly, it's in no small part to your work and your experience and just the wealth of information that you have about this county and the example that you offer all of us in serving your fellow citizens. So thank you personally, and I know thank you on behalf of this county for your service as chair of our board. Thank you so much.
And I do want to say one thing. When I spoke to the other board members and talked to David about being vice chair, he said, I'll agree to it if you won't embarrass me. So I said, okay, or I won't lose your temper. So he says I've done real good on that. Thank you, David.
Commissioner Jerry Simpson, if you'll meet Chairman Rape up front, please.
Jared, I'll get emotional. You have always been a friend since ninth grade at Parkwood. We pretty much had a good run. We didn't do anything crazy except maybe speeding in my new car once or twice and stuff like that. You were in my wedding. I was in yours, and I'm so proud to have served with you. You are a role model for so many people. Thank you.
Mr. Rape, if you'll just stay right there. And Commissioner Helms,
it's been a real pleasure serving with you. Had the privilege of working with Dennis when he was school board member, addressing a couple issues that were very, very beneficial for the schools and the county. His first year on the board, Dennis and I had a conversation that we suggested that he be vice chair. Said he'd learn more the first year as vice chair, because when you get here, you don't know what you don't know, isn't it?
That's right.
And so Dennis has got the honor, he's either been vice chair or chairman every year he's been on the board. And it's been a pleasure working with you. And like I told you the other day, I'll miss you sitting up here with us. You have, nobody loves Union County better than Dennis Ray. And it's been an honor, and I'll continue to call you my friend. I look forward to working with you. So, it's a good thing you got that gavel.
For you.
Now I'm gonna have to jockey with my wife to see if she'll let me hang them things up, because everything in that house is her decoration. Okay, we're gonna do informal comments, and first I'm gonna call on Senator Todd Johnson from Union County. This man is the real deal as far as delivering Union County whatever he can get for us. He has been magnificent. Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners. I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to come tonight, and thank you for your service. Having had the privilege of doing this for 4 years, it's not an easy task. Something I can tell you to do if you ever want to get a good laugh. Pull up your county email and do a word search and pick some 4-letter explicit word and see what all the nasty emails you've gotten over time. But also know that many, many citizens appreciate what you do. The two members that are going to be transitioning off the board, Chairman Rape, I really appreciate the leadership you've shown. You guys have gone through 2 years of very difficult times, and as both with you and Jerry, I haven't agreed with everything you've done. But in my heart and soul, I believe that all 5 of you, especially you two, do things that you think is best for Union County. You truly love Union County, and it sees through your leadership and through your, the effort and time that you put up and put in. Now, as I stand here, it's hard to believe that 12 years ago tonight, I had the opportunity of jumping into the political world with 2 other men that I truly look up to, that I think are true public servants in every definition of the word. Jerry, I truly appreciate everything you've been done for this county, but more importantly for me personally. And I've told you many, many times before, you're like a second father to me, and I truly mean that. And I'm glad I saw Miss Parkwood slide in here just a little bit ago, because we love her as well. But you guys have done a really good job over the last, especially the last 2 years, been very difficult. I would just ask that, as we go into the next year, it's a new year, you're going to have different faces and different people up here, and it's going to be tough. Continue to listen to the citizens of Union County. They are good people, and never forget the fact that you have the opportunity, as do I, of representing the finest people in the world. Union County is a place that one day I'll be buried in. But I really appreciate your service, Chairman Rape. And as I've told Commissioner Simpson multiple times, when I see him, I refer to him as chair. No disrespect to you, Chairman Rape, but he was my chairman for 4 years, and so he'll always be the chairman to me during my time of service here. But Jerry, thank you so much for all that you've done. 12 years is an unimaginable time. I only made it for 4. Couldn't take it anymore. I thought you were crazy when you ran again, and I don't know what I think when you did it for the 3rd time. But the county will truly miss your leadership and what you've done for this county. So thank you so much for letting me speak tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Brian Rogers. If you would state, everybody knows who everybody is, but state your name and address.
Yeah.
I forgot to say
Brian Rogers, 2011 Triple Crown Drive, Indian Trail. Thank you, Chairman Rape. Want to thank you for your service tonight. I know 4 years went by fast, but I appreciate your willingness to step up and serve, and you'll continue serving, no doubt, in this county in other ways. I really want to come and talk to my friend Jerry Simpson. It was in 2009. He's not with us tonight, but Don Carr said, can you go visit and have a little lunch with Jerry Simpson? I want him to, he's got to run for county commissioner. This county needs him. And I never met Jerry. And we talked, and the first thing I remember, Jerry, you recall that lunch meeting, is your commitment to service. You were so proud of your sons and just this country, and more importantly, this county. And you were humbled by so many that wanted you to run. And that humility has carried on for 12 years. After 4 years, as Senator Johnson said, when things were a little tough, you told me, I intend to continue because it's the right thing to do. I'm not done yet. And let the chips fall where they may, win or lose. And I can't think of anybody in my lifetime as a county commissioner that has had the humble heart, humility, and the principled leadership that you've had. You've told people the truth. There was one other fellow that told people the truth and served with a humble heart, and his name was Jesse Helms. And I put you right up there, my friend, with that humility. And I just thank you for your service, and I know you're going to have fun like me being miserable watching NC State games going forward, but I do want to personally thank you and thank you for what you've done for this county. And I know you'll take a little break, but you're still around and involved, and I know it's a sacrifice because you live on the other side of South Carolina, I'm convinced, but doing what you do, it means a lot to me and so many. So, and I know, again, Don would be here tonight thanking you, and thanking you too, Dennis, for that. But he's the one who got that started and laid it, and you answered the call. So I just thank you, and look forward to spending some more time with you when you got a little more time. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Jonathan Thomas.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Jonathan Thomas, 1016 Cara Court, Stallings, North Carolina. I want to say thank you for your service. The 4 years is a long time, but it's a quick time. And the relationships that I took from being a commissioner is something I still hold very near and dear to my heart. And for Jerry, thank you for your service. It's hard to believe 12 years has gone by. And I thought about it as I was driving down here, the indelible marks that Jerry's left on the county. I met him in the late 90s when we were planning the Ag Center over in Wingate. Didn't even know who Don Carr was, is that gentleman over there with the cowboy hat on. Little did I know what the future would hold. But from that point forward, from the hospital in Stallings to the law enforcement, all the support that you've given the county. I'll tell you two quick stories real quickly, and I won't drag it out because I know it gets to be a long night. But as we ran in 2010, we were down in Waxhaw, the July 4th parade, and heard some lady hurl. And you had to keep in mind, Todd and I were the lazy ones. We were in the back of the truck. Jerry's pulling a grandbaby in a red wagon a little behind the truck, and somebody hollered, "Lord, there's Jerry and Jerry's kids." And I thought at the time, while that was supposed to be an insult, what an honor to be put into that basket. But then to turn right around tonight before we started the meeting and to say the prayer, Commissioner Williams, there's something that came under attack while we were in office. And Jerry Simpson never wavered, never backed down. Cost wasn't an issue. It was all about beliefs. And you stood strong. And Jerry, tonight, from the prayer tonight to the hospital sits in Stallings to all around this county, you've made a tremendous difference. And it's an honor to call you a friend. Thank you all for your service, and thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Jonathan. Edwin Elam.
Mr. Chairman, Dennis Rape, Mr. Vice Chairman, Attorney David Williams, Union County Board of Commissioners, and the County Manager, Mark Watson, and his staff, all in line, Ms. West, Union County Board Clerk, to Union County legal team, to special guests who are here tonight, and above all, every citizen in Union County. I rise to say thank you for the accomplishments of this Board of Commissioners over the past 4 years. Over the past 10 years, I've noticed a great consciousness that takes into consideration many parts of our county that are basically have been unlikely seen in years past. This is encouraging since the population is changing and all citizens have a vested interest in what goes on here. In the last 4 years, there have been better relationships that have been cemented, and this is cause for celebration. And I thought it not robbery to stand and say thank you on the record tonight for those men whom I've learned some things from about traveling over this great county. The next meeting will have 3 new Union County Commissioners, and it is my hope that many others, too, that it will get up and go to work for all the citizens of Union County versus the rhetoric that sometimes sounds like a particular group of people only live here or that families that only were born here, and that is very far from the truth. It is my hope that character matters, that all services matter, the issues matter, that the best solutions matter, and that every single family matters here regardless of what they look like or where they live in the north part of our county, the east part of our county, the western part of our county, or in the southern part of our county. Let the news be good news for all the right reasons. Let's not use policy to divide the community by keeping those things that we know need to be addressed. These issues must be considered here after planning whatever the future looks like. When I say our children, I mean all of our children. When I say all of Union County, I mean all of Union County. God bless you all. Mr. Simpson, thank you so much for your encouragement. Thank you so much for your kind words and chats that we've had. And for those of you who are going off the board, God bless you all. God bless us all.
Thank you, Edwin. Okay, before we start this public hearing, I believe we've got one item of business that someone's wanting to add to the business section.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to add an item under business regarding our well testing and permitting policy, please.
Okay, we have a request to add that to the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we'll begin the public hearing on Charlotte Pipe and Foundry Project Endurance to consider a Step 4 Magnet 100 Economic Development Incentive Grant in an amount not to exceed $2,350,000 paid over a 14-year period. And I'm going to recognize Chris Blatte.
Thank you, sir. And as we approach Thanksgiving, I would like to say thank you to each of you that have allowed us to be so competitive going forward. We've had a phenomenal year in 2022, and this is just another great set of news here with this project. Commissioner Rushing, congratulations on your reelection. Commissioner Rape, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. You've challenged us from the day you got here to do better, and I think we have, and that's because of your pushing us. And Commissioner Simpson, 10 years ago, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be standing here. So you and Clark Goodwin, you put that together. Your statesmanship allowed the two governments to combine. And it's because of that effort you've saved the taxpayers $4 million in duplicative administrative cost. And I think we're a better salesman as one unified county. So thank you. Chairman Rape, Commissioners, Manager Watson, very excited to bring before you tonight an economic development incentive grant request by Charlotte Pipe and Foundry, aka Project Endurance. Before I share the details of the specific project and the grant request, I'd like to refresh your memories on the Step 4 Magnet 100 grant and its structure. The Step 4 Magnet 100 is targeted to companies with the following criteria: companies with broad domestic and global footprints with multiple facilities, companies that manufacture a variety of products that can be sold in different markets throughout the United States and in the world, companies that seek to place their manufacturing location and take advantage of labor, logistics, and predictability in their costs. And that's one of the things that the Magnet 100 provides. The grant targets these types of companies and provides an incentive that makes us more competitive than any of our competing locations right now. Eventually, the people will figure out this grant, but for now, we're still the best with this one. How does the Magnet 100 work? The investments enjoy a Step 4 grant factor, the highest level that we provide. It provides a 10-year window of investment, and so that the company can invest up to $100 million within 10 years, and then those incentive payments stretch out over a 14-year payment cycle. To qualify, the companies must maintain certain investment thresholds. So they must invest $30 million within the first 3 years. They must achieve $50 million within 7, and they have up to $100 million in the 10-year window. These built-in investment thresholds encourage the company for their current investments and their future investments to come here. And basically, it's a result of creating a competitive magnetism, a gravity to our county for these investments. And like all of our other incentives, these are performance-based incentives. So if the company does not achieve those thresholds for the Step 4 100, they will fall back. There's safety nets built into the program, and they will fall back to the standard STEP grant factor that would match their investment that they have achieved. So specifically with this project, so in following this background and explanation, Charlotte Pipe and Foundry is a leader in the manufacturing of plastic pipe fittings and other components for residential and commercial applications. They've served customers throughout North America, and they produce their products in Texas, Florida, Alabama, Utah, Pennsylvania, and here in Monroe. Since the 1960s, the company has operated its manufacturing facility off of Old Charlotte Highway, where it has grown to cover 1.5 million square feet and employ over 600 people. The demand for Charlotte Pipe's products has continuously grown over the years, and obviously they see the need for future growth going forward. The proposed investment would occur at their current locations in the city of Monroe. The project entails several phases over the next decade that will consist of approximately $100 million in regular equipment expansion, replacement expansions, and potentially additional new buildings. The company is considering a series of investments that qualify for the Step 4 Magnet 100, with the initial capital investment beginning in next calendar year, 2023. As part of the company's due diligence, they have indicated that incentives are a very important factor in the project's ultimate location. As you can see by all their facilities, they have choices where they can go. And so this is part of that decision process. And their decision will not occur until after the City of Monroe and Union County have adopted their incentives. We did present this to the City of Monroe at a special City Council meeting last Monday on the 14th, and it was unanimously approved for what they call a Level 4 Magnet 100 grant. So today we're requesting your consideration for a Step 4 Magnet 100 Economic Development Incentive Grant in an amount not to exceed $2,350,000 over the next 14 years, based upon the county's tax office's appraised value of each year of the company's investment up to $100 million in building equipment and machinery. Based on this investment, holding all other factors constant, the company would pay an estimated ad valorem tax on the investment of approximately $6,174,000 over the 14-year grant period. Now, the actual tax revenue coming into the county is based on the current tax rate each year as you go forward, as well as what the depreciation rate does. The state changes that depreciation rate every year, and so it will move with those things as they change. Based on the assumptions that we have and looking at history, we actually think the incentive grant will come in closer at $2,034,160, and the ad valorem revenue to the county will be roughly $4,106,000. So as you're aware, we do run a cost-benefit analysis on all of our projects. And so over this grant period of 14 years, we're looking at 5.61 for every dollar invested in the project. So 561% rate of return, and over the life of the project, 2.92 to 1. The Economic Development Commission Board of Advisors has reviewed this project and unanimously recommended that we bring it before you. So we are, from the Board of Advisors and from staff, we recommend the award of the Step 4 Magnet 100 grant, performance-based incentive grant, to Charlotte Pipe and Foundry in the amount not to exceed $2,350,000 to help us secure this $100 million investment. So at this time, I'd like to recognize Mr. Jim Loftus. He's Vice President and Controller for Charlotte Pipe, and he's here to answer any questions you may have.
Chairman and entire Board of Commissioners, I just want to say thank you very much for your continued support. Thank you for your consideration in this project. And Charlotte Pipe is proud to be an employer in Union County. Thank you.
Any questions? Commissioner Rushing.
More than a question, just a thank you. And I've, worked in agriculture for about my whole life, and I've put up a lot of Charlotte pipe.
All right.
Where we had poultry farms or on hog operations or whatever. And when I was away from home, it was always a sense of pride to be putting up that Charlotte pipe, knowing where it came from. And want to thank you for sharing one of your employees with us. And as you know, Brian Helms will be beginning next month. And thank you so much. And he's wise beyond his years, and I can only assume that that's the training he got from Charlotte Pipe. Since he's the head trainer, he's passing that on. So thank you so much for what you do for the county, and thank you so much for sharing Brian with us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We have nobody signed up for comments. Does anybody forget to sign up? Okay, I will close this this public hearing. Move on to staff recognition. Michelle Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board. Tonight, I am before you to recognize our recent Lifetime Lifesaver Award recipients from the Sheriff's Office and our Inmate Health Program. Tonight, we want to recognize Sergeant Alex Xavier, Sergeant Kelly Martin, Detention Officer Marcavius McGriff, Detention Officer Caitlin Galrin, and Detention Officer Grayson Godwin, as well as Inmate Health Nurse Frank Spear. A background on this particular Lifesaver Award is that these 5 detention officers and our inmate health nurse were honored with this Lifesaver Award after working together to revive a 43-year-old man in a public hallway just outside of the magistrate's office on August 27th. The man's skin was blue and he was not breathing. Officers immediately used their training and lowered him to the floor and began CPR while calling for additional assistance from on-site medical staff and Union EMS. The officers on scene who were administering life-saving CPR recognized the signs and symptoms being displayed by the man as a narcotics overdose. They quickly called for medical staff to bring naloxone, commonly referred to as Narcan. After numerous rounds of CPR and medical staff administering Narcan, the man began to breathe again and regain consciousness. Sheriff Eddie Cathy and the management team recognized this group's actions by surprising them with the Lifesaver Award on October 26th. And tonight, I think we are joined by Inmate Health Nurse Frank Spear, as well as Craig Greenlee, our Inmate Health Manager, and Sheriff Eddie Cathy to receive this recognition from the board. Come on up, guys. Oh, and one of our sheriff's deputies is here as well. Thank you.
Okay. Spear, on behalf of what you and your team did, I'd like to appreciate, thank you, and tell you how much we appreciate it. Probably not as much as the man you revived, but thank you for all y'all do.
Thank you, sir. We didn't take these jobs to become rich and famous, just to serve the public.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
Okay, next, Michelle Lancaster again.
Yes, thank you very much. This next recognition is for the City County Communications and Marketing Association Awards. This is to recognize our public communications staff for receiving 2 national awards for Union County's branding initiative. At the annual City County Communications and Marketing Association Conference in Portland, Oregon, Union County's branding received a Silver Circle Award. And we have our staff here tonight to be recognized, so we'll ask them to come up. You can read in your background, the comprehensive logo was well thought out process that resulted in a beautiful, unique, and eye-catching logo. They believed that we had done a nice job researching the characteristics of the target audience, and this was a well-done product. So we would like to recognize the staff, particularly Brent and his work, Brent Ayers. Brent, are you going to take the picture and get the award?
Yeah, I know. You can tell he doesn't want to.
Never mind, you want to.
What's that?
You can use it.
Yeah, we got duplicates if it doesn't work out. Yeah, get closer, Chris.
This is insurance.
Okay, recognize Manager Mark Watson on the fourth quarter service awards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the very special honors that we have every quarter is to recognize those employees who have met a special milestone in their service, both to this organization and to the residents of Union County. And we just completed our and presented our fourth quarter service awards. And as a way of introducing these employees and letting you know a little bit more about who they are and their particular area of service, we have prepared a short video.
The best thing about today is hearing the stories about you. Last time we did this, I was overwhelmed by just the stories that were told about individuals that were getting the service awards, their dedication, the things that they do on a daily basis to make a difference.
Here's to another 10, 20, 30 years.
But thank you for being here and being our rock. Yeah.
Congratulations and happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Thank you so much for your hard work.
I love working for Union County because I love assisting the employees and also some of the citizens, always touching an employee from the day they begin to potentially the day they separate, just working with them throughout their employment. That is the benefit of working in HR, that we get to be behind the scenes but always there and working to make sure that employment is great for our employees.
Sure, I enjoy working with her. He does a lot for this county, and we are so fortunate that he chose Union County. Thank you very much.
Jesse, I appreciate all you do for the county. Congratulations.
So thank you for the 5 years, and I know we got about 20 more, right? Is that what you got in you?
The proudest element of my job is working on
a team that has such talented public health staff. I mean, I can't say enough good things about them. Yeah, the staff is what makes it, and it's just a pleasure for me to be able to manage it and to see it happen every day in the work that they do.
Thank you, Karen. So, congratulations.
But seriously, thanks, Brian, for all you do for the county.
Congratulations, Karina.
Thank you so much for everything you do for us.
We appreciate everything you do for the organization. Thank you.
What I love most about working for Union County, I guess, is the ability to serve. I knew from the start that I wanted to be a public servant, and Union County has given me that avenue to fulfill that dream. So the organization as a whole, they always seek to better serve our community.
So we're so glad to have you, and we can't wait for another 10 years. Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations. A pleasure. Thank you.
And so, Rhonda, we do appreciate all that you do for us.
Private organizations don't have the benefits, or you don't have 401k, you don't have the retirement benefits that we have here. It's a great place to work. They care about what you do.
I have been with the county for over 15 years, and during that time I have loved working with the public, making sure that families and children have their needs met in the county.
You know, I started in the corporate world and came to Union County, and I love it. We are welcoming, we are a family, and I think, you know, coming here, being here for 5 years is a testimony to that Union County rocks.
We ask a lot of you, and you deliver. We appreciate your dedication. We appreciate your caring about the residents of this county, because that's what it's all about. We are a service organization, and the examples that you've seen today and the examples you set, that is what makes it all worth it. Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful day. Mr. Chairman, it's as I've stated before, that's one of the things that I enjoy most is seeing those employees reach those milestones, hearing their stories, and it is a little overwhelming when you go to one of these award ceremonies for recognizing these employees for their time and service, and you realize the depth and the breadth of training and experience and service that they provide across this county. It is a little overwhelming when you think about all the individuals that they touch each day, but we're proud of them, and we appreciate them, every one.
I want to give a shout out. I saw Eric Simpson in there. He was one of my students, and he's now over facilities. I had him and David Simpson at the Career Center back in the early 2000s, and they have far exceeded what I thought they would do, but they're just touching what I knew they could do. I'm glad to see them both. I believe, Brian, you hired Devin as a policeman at Stallings, but I'm real proud to see Eric here working for us. Okay, we move on to the consent agenda. I need a motion and a vote for items on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We now go to the business section. Consideration of a Step 4 Magnet 100 Economic Development Incentive Grant to Charlotte Pipe and Foundry in an amount not to exceed $2,350,000 paid over a 14-year period. I make a motion to award this Step 4 Magnet 100 Economic Development Incentive Grant to Charlotte Pipe and Foundry in an amount not to exceed $2,350,000 over a 14-year period beginning in FY 2024, and to authorize the county manager to negotiate and execute an agreement substantially consistent with this agenda item. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much, sir, and please express to everybody at Charlotte Pipe how proud we are to be one of your homes.
Thank you very much. Same goes to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to have a monthly update on wastewater treatment capacity with Brian Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Typically, what you have in your agenda pack is an information-only item on the update for wastewater capacity. However, there is some additional information we thought that would be important to report to the board and also make this really more out front and for the public and be transparent about that. So I want to go into our capacity report. So a couple of things, just want to give you the update on the capacity, and then also talk to you about some information we learned about our Crooked Creek wastewater plant. So the flows as of October, and this is our data for October. You'll see that all of our plants are operating below capacity. 12 Mile Creek is actually dropped a little bit. It's actually below 99% at this time, and that's really due to the flows, the average flows. It's been drier this year, and that's helped us with a lot of those flows. With Crooked Creek, you'll see an asterisk there, and that's because those flow numbers are actually going to change, and I'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But all the rest of our plants are operating below capacity. There is a plan to expand the 12 Mile Creek that this board will have to take some additional action on in the future. So hopefully in the future you'll see that number change. So let's talk about the development types that are for the two major projects, the 12 Mile Creek and the Crooked Creek projects. Currently, for 12 Mile Creek, there are no projects that are waiting for capacity but could be permitted. Everyone that could be permitted, they've been given flow. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. However, there are a number of projects that are in review. That means that they're going through the review process. They are attempting to gain permitting status. As you can see, for engineering plan review, there are 6 projects currently that are in that review process. Roughly about 290,000 gallons as proposed out of those 6 projects. And then there are 17 projects in the sketch plan review, roughly 500,000 gallons. That doesn't mean that every one of those projects will move forward. Oftentimes, some of those drop off for various reasons, but that's where those stand at this point. For Crooked Creek, there are 3 projects that are currently pending, meaning that they can be approved. However, because of either capacity issues or for capital improvement projects that the county is responsible for, we cannot permit those projects. They currently total about 54,000 gallons, so they are on hold, waiting for either those capital projects to be done or capacity to be released. You have 5 projects that are in engineering plan review, and then you have 9 projects that are in the sketch plan review. So let's talk about the Crooked Creek plant. Previously, I showed you the slide and showed it was just under 80% capacity. When I said 80%, that was actual flows plus all the projects that have been permitted that are waiting to actually connect and start to flow. The way our monitoring goes is that the state requires that an effluent meter be placed at each one of our wastewater treatment plants. That effluent meter has to be calibrated by a third party, not by Union County, and that is because they don't want us or they don't want anybody to fudge the numbers or to do something that might cause information to be incorrect that goes to the state. So that is a third party that handles that. Our staff actually noticed that there was some inconsistencies with some of the data that was coming in. It didn't appear that it was right. There was a concern that they had. So they actually, on their own, checked the calibration of the meter and found that it was faulty. They then contacted the company that is responsible for the calibration of the meter, had them come out, review it. They confirmed that, yes, there was a problem with the calibration. For some reason, it was off. And it was off to the tune of about 171,000 gallons. That may not seem like a lot, but for a small wastewater treatment plant, the Crooked Creek plant, that is a lot of capacity. What this all means is that during that time at which that meter was not in proper calibration, we were actually flowing more flow through the plant than we knew we were. And that we were reporting to the state because we're reporting the information that was given from the meter. So what you'll see there is for the 30 days, and this is just the 30 days, this isn't the average flow, this is just that past 30 days, it showed that our flow was 682,000 gallons during that time. After the calibration, it was actually 853,000 gallons for a difference of roughly 171,000 gallons. That's important because moving forward, we're going to need to adjust our numbers. That doesn't mean we're going back and adjusting all the numbers. We've contacted the state. We've let them know about the calibration issue. We're moving forward with those, but we want to make you aware of it. We are also going in and evaluating our meters at all of our plants just to make sure there are no issues with the meters at all the plants. And I can report that we have found no calibration issues with the meters at our other locations. They are all calibrated properly and operating properly. So, what does this mean for current capacity at Crooked Creek plant? If you look at it, the average daily flows have been reported in the for this 12-month cycle at 855,000 gallons. That's the AADF. If the recalibrated flow were to be added in, and we're giving it a factor there, so 175,000 to 250,000 gallons, because it'll fluctuate. We don't really know exactly what it's going to be. We gave it a range. And then we added in the permitted obligated flows, which are a little over 650,000 gallons. It really gets us to a capacity of between 88.7 and 92.7% for Crooked Creek. Now, I say it's at range because obviously we don't really know what the flows were months ago. We only know what we found recently. So to be aware, our plant is operating at a higher capacity than what's reported in the past. If you look at the projects that were in line, 3 permitted projects that can't move forward just yet, 5 in engineering review, and 9 in the sketch review. If those 3 projects were to be permitted today, we would be somewhere between 91.5% and 95.5% capacity with that plant. That is not above capacity, and as you know, we are permitting 12 Mile Creek above the 99%, right at the 99% range. So what we plan to do, first, as I said, we checked all our effluent meters at the 12 Mile Creek plant and all of our other wastewater treatment plants. We found no issues with those to make sure that they are operating correctly. We also are in the process of installing a new effluent meter at the Crooked Creek plant. Not only do we have the calibrated meter, but we're going to add a second meter to that plant just to make sure we have another fail-safe, that we are aware of what the flow will be and we know what that flow will be at that plant. And then we've also notified NCDEQ about this, the readings issues, and given them that information. Moving forward, we will continue to permit this plant to a little over 99% unless the state tells us differently. We all know that they have a say in this. They're the ones who actually issue our wastewater permits. So it'll be our responsibility to package those permit requests, send them up to the state, and if they concur and agree, then we'll move forward with those permitting. But just so the board is aware, our intentions are to continue to permit that plant up until around 99%. And then, of course, we will decide what we do in the future based on full board direction as far as any capacity issues with that plant and that service area. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Commissioner Rushing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brian, this plant is also that plant that we discussed the condemnations for the easements to go to.
Yes, sir.
So when you're saying that we're actually treating more sewage there now than we thought we were treating.
Yes, sir.
Could that not have a factor to play in the need for upsizing the pipes? So we're treating more than we thought we were treating.
Oh, well, certainly. The issue that you're talking about is the interceptor line. So with the interceptor line, the plan was to expand that pipe to allow for capacity today, as well as future capacity, depending on what the board does with that service area. Absolutely, it will have an effect because we're lower in capacity as far as that particular project is. I will tell you, however, that 3 of those projects, at least 2 of those that could be permitted but are waiting, are projects that would have to be served by that interceptor. Without that interceptor, those projects cannot be served. So just be aware that that is a current condition that we'll have to deal with. But yes, it will absolutely have an effect. That interceptor will have less effect because obviously we're lower in capacity with that plant.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, Commissioner Hale?
Ron, if I recall, once we hit 80%, state gets involved, and once we hit 90%, if we don't do something to make it better, the state could actually come take it over. Is that not correct?
It's not a matter of taking it over. What the state usually gets involved in is they will dictate whether we continue to issue permits for the actual plant. Currently, we are not at 80 or 90% of actual flows. We are well below that for actual flows. However, the state looks at all of that. They look at your actual flows, they look at your permitted flows. Currently, they have not stepped in and said that we need to have a plan or don't have a plan. They've not had any communication with us about that. However, that's why we indicate we intend to continue to permit until they tell us, stop. You cannot permit any longer. But they do have something to say with our permits. Yes, sir.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Yes, sir.
All right, moving on to 22-770, rezoning case number 2022-006, Forest Hills. We heard that public hearing last time. We talked about waiting till the bond was voted on. Bjorn?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Manager Watson. This is a rezoning that we call Forest Hills, because it's on the site of the Forest Hills High School campus. And this is a request to rezone 2 parcels, combination of RA20 and highway commercial, to all RA20. In order to consolidate in one parcel. Since they're split, any development that were to occur would have to apply buffers internally to their site against the 2 zoning districts. And this is truly administrative. This is a straight rezoning. There's no conditions associated with it. I'm going to go through all of the maps and go to the public feedback. No community meeting was held because this was not a rezoning. The public hearing was held a couple of weeks ago. No one spoke against it. We did have a representative from the school system here to provide information about it. Since that time, we haven't received any additional phone calls or comments. And again, this proposal is supported by both Marshville and Wingate. We recommend approval of this rezoning, as did the planning board. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, we do have a representative from the school system here to also provide information and answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move that we adopt the ordinance approving revision to the official zoning map of Union County, North Carolina, and adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for approval. Pursuant to NCGS 160D-605, the Union County Board of Commissioners does hereby find and determine that adoption of the proposed map amendment is consistent with the currently adopted consistent with the currently adopted Union County Comprehensive Plan. The board declares that adoption of the proposed map amendment is deemed an amendment to the plan, including any future land use map in the plan. The adoption of the proposed map amendment takes into account the need to amend the zoning map to meet the needs of the community and is reasonable and in the public interest because, one, the immediate area around the subject properties already has 200 acres of similar residential zoning, thus making the rezoning consistent with the zoning of other properties in the vicinity. Two, the subject properties can be served by water and sewer utilities. Three, the subject properties do not have direct access to US 74, reducing their attractiveness for commercial development and as an employment corridor identified in the plan.
We have a motion. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll have text amendments. Lee? Text amendments to Table 25-1, Table of Allowed Uses, Section 30.150, Radio or Television Broadcast Tower, Section 30-190, Wireless Telephone Telecommunication Facilities, Table 45.1, Minimum Motor Vehicle Parking Ratios, Section 55.070D, Land Use Buffer Table, and Article 105 Definitions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated again, this is a text amendment to the Wireless Communications Facilities section of our ordinance. Just a brief recap, this started as an request by two homeowners associations that was then referred over to staff. We made a few changes to that after reviewing it. I went through those changes at our last meeting right before the public hearing. You see a lot of pages in there. I think there's about 13 pages of changes. Most of those are definitional. We went through and added some definitions. The primary things that we did were merged the radio and television communication sections together with the cell tower sections because they're both towers. So from a land use standpoint, we thought that kind of made sense. And again, had some definitional changes and then added a 1-to-1 setback and then a 300-foot setback from residential properties. And the planning board considered this at their October 4th meeting. They recommended approval unanimously, and you conducted a public hearing at your last meeting, and no one spoke. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I move that this board adopt the ordinance approving text amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance of Union County, North Carolina, and adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for approval. Pursuant to NCGS 160D-605, the Union County Board of Commissioners do hereby find and determine that adoption of the proposed text amendments is consistent with the currently adopted Union County Comprehensive Plan, and that adoption of the proposed text amendments is reasonable and in the public interest because, one, the text amendments set forth additional setback requirements for certain support structures, including wireless support structures beyond the current setback requirements, which addresses ensuring public safety in conjunction with the plan. Two, the text amendments combine certain regulations related to support structures for different but similar uses. Wireless support structures in radio, television, or other broadcast support structures in order to treat similar uses consistently. And 3, the text amendments provide additional language and definitions to the Unified Development Ordinance of Union County, North Carolina, to ensure clarity of understanding of the language and intent of the UDO.
We have a motion. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
I would like to tell you folks something. Y'all got a lesson, just like I did when I was elected to this board. Sometimes you can say the best thing in the world, but it takes 5 or 6 months to see it come to, and I don't know why I said that night. I'm gonna revert that back to legal. But y'all got your money's worth out of our legal department with this one, because they have really put some time into it. But thank you for being involved. If everybody did like y'all did, and there's a lot of people that do, Union County would be even a greater place. And that's hard to imagine, but it is. So thank you for what you did. And I thought y'all's presentation was one of the best I ever heard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate your consideration, and we appreciate the service you've all done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Jim, you want to come forward? Amendment to section 65.050B of the Union County Development Ordinance, UDO. I don't know if you would say you're batting cleanup or you're the designated hitter.
I'm not real sure either, but yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. At the public hearing, we did not have any opposition. Basically, what this proposed text amendment does is makes it more unified with the way appeals are handled with the Union County Development Ordinance. Currently, any appeal today, other than the section of the floodplain, goes to the Board of Adjustment. We're just trying to make it consistent with the other provisions of the ordinance. Basically, how we're changing is the word commissioner to adjustment. So instead of coming to the Board of Commissioners, it'll get to the Board of Adjustment. Planning Board voted unanimously to approve the presentation. Staff recommends approval as well. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the ordinance approving amendments to section 65.050-B of the Unified Development Ordinance of Union County, North Carolina, and adopt the consistency and reasonableness statement for approval. Pursuant to NCGS 160D-605, the Union County Board of Commissioners does hereby find and determine that adoption of the proposed text amendments are consistent with the currently adopted Union County Comprehensive Plan, and that adoption of the proposed text amendments are reasonable and in the public interest because 1, the text amendments require appeals of violations of Article 65, flood damage prevention of the Unified Development Ordinance of Union County, North Carolina, to be heard and decided by the Union County Board of Adjustment. And 2, the text amendments provide consistency throughout the UDO regarding the authority to hear and decide appeals of administrative decisions.
Any discussion? We have a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, if Director Tracy Colley could come forward. We added a item to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have taken action on some additional testing of wells here in the last several months, and one of the things that has come to my attention is some concerns in the agricultural community over the actual need for some of that. It may be a little bit overkill from the standpoint some of these wells are located in areas where their only use will be for possibly irrigation or animal watering or something like that. So in an effort to move forward and relieve some concern over that, I have a motion to offer. I appreciate, Tracy, your being here, and if you'd like to, I know you're aware of the issue and the situation. Would you like to make some comments with regard?
the main thing I wanted to be clear is the irrigation well ordinance in Union County, which was adopted in 2008, is a public health ordinance. And as part of that ordinance, irrigation wells or agricultural wells are constructed in the same way a private drinking water well is, as far as location, permitting, construction, inspection, and water quality testing. So I just want to make that clear.
Okay. No pun intended, but the waters seem to be a little bit muddied. So with that being said, I would like to move, Mr. Chairman, that we exempt at this point non-potable agricultural uses from fees for Union County environmental health, well permitting, and well testing, and that we direct that all necessary actions be taken in accordance with applicable law to bring the county's rules, policies, and ordinance into substantial conformity with this action.
Any questions? Commissioner Rushing?
Mr. Chairman. So are you saying that we can't separate the two, a residential well that's going to be used for irrigation in a loan versus an agriculture use, correct?
We do not separate that.
But we can?
We would want to define what an agricultural well is. I think that would be important. And we would want to identify where the funds would be received to pay for those water quality samples.
Well, I'm inclined to support the motion, but do you need anything else from us? Or I'm kind of unsure if you need something else from us.
I guess my question is do we want to further define specifically what an agricultural well is? Is that a private irrigation well, or is that a well that serves an animal operation or a nursery operation from a commercial perspective? And where will the funds come? If you're going to waive these fees for the water quality sampling, is that money that environmental health will absorb, the fees that we'll just absorb?
Commissioner Rushing, right now the motion states that all necessary actions be taken in accordance with applicable law to bring the rules, policies, and ordinance into conformance. So those are things that we would look at a later time in terms of defining that and exempting it. And likely, particularly because some of these fees are established in the budget ordinance, it would come back to this board for action. But tonight you are definitely setting the policy to do this. There would be additional staff work later that would be necessary.
Okay, thank you. You're clear with that too? Thank you.
Tracy, would it be safe to say if we put a block on there, ag exempt, non-human consumption? If the person pulling the permit said it was going to be for non-human consumption?
I mean, that is the intention for an agricultural well or irrigation well for that permit. Now, later on down the road, they may convert that to a private drinking water well, and we would, at that point...
But they would have to permit a house on that site, which would trigger the recheck.
That's right. Since our prior
So we have checks and balances in the way. Building codes would have to, they'd know what was going on there. Okay, we have a motion to deal with this unintended consequence of wells that testing for human consumption. So all in favor of? Yes, Commissioner Rushing.
Thank you, Chairman. When you say though you didn't say no human consumption in your motion, did you?
I said non-potable.
Yeah. So like, again, if we put it in an office at the farm, their workers are drinking, filling up their water bottles and things like that, does that affect anything with that?
That should be potable.
But legal's going to look at this and come back with a...
Exactly.
I'm going to support the motion.
And I think the intent was, for instance, on a poultry operation.
I got you.
Out there alone.
I understand.
Poultry houses.
I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I embrace the spirit of this motion, but I'm just not prepared to support it tonight. I think some very good questions have been raised about distinguishing uses as well as where funds are going to be coming from. So I would much prefer to have this delayed, to have staff work on a presentation before I can support it.
Okay, I will say this, I'm in support of it, and I think we would be opening a huge box with the state of North Carolina if we try to regulate agriculture uses. So I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor of Commissioner Simpson's?
I don't think Commissioner Helms has had time to talk.
Stoney, you got to speak up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't believe that Commissioner Helms has had opportunity to say something, if he wants to say something.
Well, I'll tell you, I support the existing motion, but I would like to make a statement following
Yes, sir.
that motion concerning the policy we adopted.
And David, Mr. Chairman, David, I would like to be 5-0 vote. I mean, I think what we're asking for is staff to do, what you're saying is check all the legalities and check all the budgets and come back to us at a later time. I don't think we're approving it 100% tonight. I think this is just giving staff direction to come back for the 100% approval. Is that correct? Mr.
Well,
Thomas?
if the motion is just to direct staff to come back to us with a presentation, I'm certainly a 5-0 vote there. But to me, it seems like that's not the motion. That it's a more substantive motion where a lot of these other elements are undefined. And again, I think the spirit of the motion sounds like something, I could support, but it seems ill-defined to me at this point.
Well, let me say this. There are poultry houses that have been under construction for 3 or 4 months that are racing towards completion with a well already drilled. And if this motion is not passed, then we possibly would face litigation from not giving them a final. And I think this was an unintended, ma'am.
I don't believe that's correct, sir.
So can I?
Circle S has got.
Can I comment for just a second? When we had the meeting previously, we talked about the policy that we were moving forward with. Commissioner Rushing asked about ag uses, and ag uses are exempt. They're already exempt from our building code requirements as well as zoning requirements, as long as they are truly ag. I'm not talking about a wedding venue on a agricultural piece of property. I'm talking about an ag use. Those are already exempt. They don't fall into the realm of having to have a CO, and therefore that policy doesn't apply. Now, there are currently regulations that we have for, they have to get a permit to drill the well. They have to have that water still tested, but there's no requirement for that water to be potable, and there's no requirement for us to withhold a CO, nor will we withhold a CO on any of those ag structures. I understand what you want to accomplish. I think we can do that, but I don't want any fear from the ag community that they cannot get their ag uses permitted and CO'd, because they can. We actually do not issue COs for ag buildings anyway, so they would be exempt from that.
Is that what you were talking about, Tracy, you didn't think was true? Because I know of wells that were drilled 2 months ago on these brooder farms, and the houses are almost complete. And that was before we did the ordinance, but as I understood it, we had to pass this motion so that.
No, sir. I'm not sure of the confusion, but we do not hold back a CO, or nor do we issue any issues related to those ag uses. So it would not apply to those particular.
It's not for human, those are not for human consumption.
They're not for human consumption.
Well, then the question is, why are we even voting on this motion if it's exempt?
I be honest with you, Mr. Ray, but I was not aware of this until tonight, so.
Sorry.
From the fee side. I think
The
the
fee
issue is,
side.
Yes, if you wanted to waive fees, that's all, that would be something we need to do, and we have to bring that back to the board. And as our general counsel indicated, there are things we have to, like, look into and bring to you so you're aware of that before we can make those decisions. But if the board's pleasure is you want to waive those fees, we can certainly, bring that back to you. That's not an issue. But I don't want you to feel like ag uses are in limbo. They're not in limbo whatsoever.
Well, my mind was in limbo after listening to all this, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, irrigation
Yes.
wells are not private drinking water wells.
Commissioner Simpson.
I think, and Brian makes a good point, I think it simply stems from the fact that we have required some additional regulations with our new well testing and concern over arsenic and that kind of thing. And that's an agricultural use sees that as additional regulation and an additional burden on their operation. So I think this is simply to exempt those fees and let legal take a look at it and till we get to the right spot.
Okay. We have a motion. All in favor?
The motion right now is to call the question.
All right, have a motion. All in favor to call the question? Aye. All in favor of the motion of Commissioner Simpson's adding item?
Do we need to restate the motion?
Yes.
Okay. The motion is to exempt non-potable agricultural uses from fees for Union County environmental health, well permitting, and well testing, and direct that all necessary actions be taken in accordance with applicable law to bring the county's rules, policies, and ordinances into conformity with this action.
All right, y'all heard the motion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Commissioner Helms, you wanted to make
Yeah, with the new policy concerning the potable water, the residents, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have to have a satisfactory water report to get my CO. I can't get power to my house without a CO. And in speaking with the people that install the filters and everything, one, you gotta have power to run the filters, so how you gonna test it? Secondly, the fact is the manufacturers are saying you need to run it for 28 days and backwash it, and then you get a reasonable test results, so you know its effectiveness. What I'm asking is that can be catastrophic to a young family building a house and having a well. You can't get there. They said you can run your well for 8 hours a day so much, which is not necessarily good for it, but you got to have power to do it, and you can't get power until you get a CO. So what I'm asking is that find a way that we can work with people, if it's a temporary CO or whatever, so they can get in and improve the water solution. Yes, Brian?
So we actually do allow for power to be obtained on the property. It's not permanent power. People have salt poles, they have ways that they actually have to use power on the structure. It's not intended to be power for them to live in the structure. So we already allow that. And we've actually talked about this circumstance, and that's about letting these builders and these property owners know up front that these are the things you must address. And if you choose to drill your well last, then you are taking a risk that you are accepting. We, of course, are going to educate people, but we can't make them drill the well first. We can only educate them that that is the best practice so that they can find these issues up front, and then we can address them if they do exist. But you can actually have a saw pole or other forms of power that's temporary, and they can do that work that way, and we will work with these folks to allow them to do that, because it's important that they do find out whether they have potable water that is clean and safe for their family. So I hear you, and I promise you we will do that.
Well, the thing about it is a salt hall, and as you know, I'm in this situation right now. filter system is gonna be on the house. It's gotta run for 28 days for it to automatic backwash. So are you suggesting I run a drop cord, jerry rig how the water solution's gonna work?
No, sir, we'll have our building code officials figure out how to make that work.
That's all I'm asking you to do.
Yes, sir.
Please figure out a way, because, you know, I know I've met some people that are also constructing houses that are further along, and I think what the point you made of doing the wells up front is absolutely critical if you're gonna build.
Absolutely, and I do want to point out that when this goes into effect, this is not officially in effect at this point. Remember, we've discussed it. We have not set an actual date because the board gave us some things that you wanted us to do, and you wanted us to get the education element out there. When it does take effect, it does not apply to someone who already has a permit. It will only apply to new permits. So
that date hadn't happened?
That date has not
Because I was
happened.
told it was a couple of weeks ago on a Friday.
We unfortunately
That's what
would.
my builder heard too.
Well, we did not actually establish the date because we actually reevaluated how the process will work, and we want to make sure we have enough time to get the word out to the public so that everyone's aware of it. So it's not official at this point in time. When we give a date, we will make sure the board is they're aware, this is the date, this is the drop dead date, but we've not
But
established
you did
that.
send a letter out saying that it was implemented a couple of Fridays ago.
I'm not aware of
No, we
that
did not.
letter. No, sir.
No, sir.
My builder got one.
I'd like to see the letter.
I'll ask for it.
Sure.
Commissioner Rushing.
Mr. Chairman. So once they get their well tested and it comes back with arsenic or any other contaminants, they purchase the whole home filter and they install the whole home filter.
Well, it depends on the specific results. I mean, we can't say. It depends on what the contaminant is. They have to work with a well water treatment installer to determine that. I know there are some issues with the long-term flushing of the well with an arsenic type system. But, you know, it really depends on that particular situation.
Let's don't confuse it. It's,
Okay.
once he buys the filter, an approved filter to go on the home, he has to wait, or he's bought the filter. Do we go back out and test the filter?
We test the water to make sure that the filter is functioning properly and that the water is potable.
Okay, so even though it's an approved filter that's supposed to do the job, he has to wait till he can move into his house until you go back out and test it. And what he's saying is he has to wait 28 days.
And that I'm not familiar with. We
28 days is
can
the
look into that.
backwash cycle.
Okay.
And they said you have to run it for 28 days to get a valid sample of the water, how effective it is.
How much is he paying for every test, or does he, like if he tests it 10 days or 15 days or 20 days? Is he
So-
paying for that test every time?
You would pay for whatever resample you needed. So if it's bacteria, you would pay for bacteria. If you installed an UV light or a chlorinator, we would sample, just as soon as that system was installed. I'm not familiar with the 28-day cycle. We can look into that. It may depend on the type of system that's installed. There may be others that have less of a backwash time frame. I mean, I don't know, Commissioner Helms, what type of system you're referring to.
It's arsenic.
Let me bring this-
Is it reverse osmosis? Do you know what type of system it is?
I'm not sure.
Let me bring this to a conclusion. Until it's passed into regulation, this is two mules arguing over a rotten turnip. Commissioner Helms, you can get your CO according to Brian Matthews.
Correct.
And just don't drink the water till you know it's safe.
I clearly understand that, and I am grandfathered in because I did my well 6 months ago.
Yes, sir. And you have your
But-
permit ahead of time.
That's true, but my concern is for our citizens.
Yes, sir.
That are getting ready to go through this, and a lot of young people getting ready to build a house. I don't want them sitting there with a house complete and have to wait 28 days to do this test that you're gonna say yes or no, you can move in that house.
And that's
not
why.
feasible.
And that's why we put off the official date, because we need to make sure we have enough time to educate the public about this. Yes, sir.
Okay. The turnip is eaten. Okay, County manager comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, the next meeting of the Board of County Commissioners will be December 5th, and that's when the new commissioners will take their seats on the board. So congratulations, Mr. Rushing, on your reelection. And to Ms. Merrill and Mr. Helms, congratulations to them on winning their seats on the board. Staff has put together a new commissioner orientation and will be meeting at this point with Ms. Merrill and Mr. Helms on the 22nd of November from 3 to 6 here in the first floor conference room, and on December the 2nd from 3 to 6 here in the first floor conference room, to begin to give them an introduction into the workings, the administrative workings of local government here in Union County. To Mr. Jerry Simpson and Mr. Dennis Rake. It has been a pleasure and an honor to serve with both of you. Jerry, we've known each other for a long time. I remember when you were the extension agent, and y'all's office was up in the tower, and my first day on the job, probably the first day I met you, and it's been a long, good working relationship and a good friendship, and I appreciate everything you've done for this county. And Dennis, it's been a pleasure to get to know you. You have challenged us at every turn and pushed staff to make things right and make things better for the residents of the county. No matter sometimes how difficult it might have been, or how uncomfortable it might have been. And I remember, I think the first question you asked of staff, if it wasn't in your first meeting, it was in our first meeting, probably in an agenda review, probably right after the agenda review. But you wanted to know what the status of the new library project was. And, Mr. Rape, we just broke ground on that the other day.
Well, that's great. And for the general public, we had a bid that was going to work, and then they withdrew their bid, but we had somebody else.
It's been a long, arduous process on that project, but it is underway.
They ought to call the library the unicorn branch of Union County Public Library.
Well, we appreciate you, your passion for Union County and the folks that live here. Just as a reminder, Thanksgiving holiday is approaching. General county offices will be closed for business on Thursday and Friday, the 24th and 25th. And as Senator Johnson mentioned earlier, we are all blessed to live in Union County, and we have a lot to be thankful for. And with that, I would say happy Thanksgiving.
Commissioner Rushing, comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and have a happy and safe Thanksgiving, and be careful in your travels. Thank you.
Commissioner Helms.
Yeah, I want to acknowledge how much we appreciated the Warriors and Warbirds flew the weekend before last. It was a phenomenal display. I want to personally thank the City of Monroe for bringing this to us. The manager and I had the privilege to present the Junior ROTC Awards to the outstanding candidate from each one of the schools, and these are our future veterans. And it was very, very moving experience. Secondly, Jerry, it's been 10 years we've worked together. We hadn't always agreed, but he has always been the ultimate gentleman and a statesman. And I know he's proud of Miss Parkwood, but you got to be proud of him too. He's done a great job, and it's been my pleasure to work with you. Dennis, said a little bit what I thought about our working relationship. Last 4 years, this county has made more progress than since I can remember. Phenomenal. And like the manager said, Dennis held our feet to the fire. And we appreciate it. We're going to miss you. So I hope to see you out there often. But it's been a great experience working with you, and you're a true friend, and you love this county as much as anybody I know.
Thank you, Richard.
So I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, and I look forward to beginning next week. Congratulations, Mr. Rushings, on your reelection, and we'll start in December.
Vice Chair Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to echo the expressions of gratitude to our commissioners who are leaving us, Commissioners Rape and Simpson. This isn't a goodbye, but it is a farewell to board service. And I'd just like to thank you personally for your service, your heart for service, and to this commissioner, the example that you've set. It's one that I know we all try to emulate. And just on a personal level, Jerry, I'd just like to say how much I appreciate how you express yourself from this dais. You invariably are thoughtful, you are thorough, and you often unpack multiple sides of an issue. And I, for one, have appreciated it greatly, and I'm going to miss it. Dennis, I've loved serving with you, and you have taught me so much as a fellow officer on this board. And I'd just like to echo some of the other things that the county manager and that Commissioner Helms have intimated about just how you've kind of held everybody's feet to the fire, but not in a belligerent or bad way, but just trying to draw the best out of an already excellent staff without breaking things. You know, that can be a challenge sometimes, I think, to insist on better, but, you know, keep a good thing going. And to my mind, you've done that. And these past 2 years, I know for a fact we've made some great progress. And, you know, Commissioner Helms has talked to the progress over the last 4 years that you've had a very important hand in, and I, for one, am so grateful. Last but not least, I'd like to just say a couple more things. Wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving. If you're traveling mercies to you all. And I'd like to also congratulate Commissioner Rushing on another term. And I welcome an opportunity to work with Mrs. Merrill and Mr. Helms on a new board that we'll inaugurate at our first meeting in December.
Commissioner Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And hopefully I don't get too long-winded. I always make notes so that I'll not ramble. Understand that my comments are in the context of 12 years as opposed to just the last couple of months. I want to first say thanks to Brian and Todd and Jonathan particularly for their comments. Commissioner Williams mentioned the fact that there's a lot of difference between campaigning and sitting in this seat, and that's one of the first things I learned. When we were campaigning, they called us the 3 J's. Jonathan Thomas, Todd Johnson, and Jerry Simpson. We were the 3 J's. And some of you probably laugh at me. I'm sitting up here, I can't see 2 inches in front of me, and I'll ride these glasses down on my nose. And there was a guy that was very active in politics at the time we were running in 2010, and he did a political cartoon, and he put 3 magpies on a power line. The 3 J's, he called us. He was the one who coined us the 3 J's, and he had spectacles on me down on the end of my nose, if you can imagine that picture. So a lot of fun, but it has been a long time. And I'll make just a few comments relative to those 12 years. You know, as a part of our agenda and order of business, we always begin our meeting with an invocation. It's never been planned or directed, but is a the discretion of each individual board member. The Constitution guarantees our right to worship as we choose, and as commissioners express our faith as a part of who we are and how we govern. One of our prominent founders, Thomas Jefferson, said in a letter to John Adams, "Say nothing of my religion. It is known to God and myself alone. Its evidence before the world is to be sought in my life. If it has been honest and dutiful to society, the religion which has regulated it cannot be a bad one." I want to thank my fellow board members, both past and present, for recognizing that our rights come from God and not from man, and upholding the First Amendment. One of the first actions we undertook as a board in 2010 was to bring transparency to board discussions. We equipped the conference room back here with cameras and worked diligently to ensure that all full board discussions were available to the public. Through the work of the 2010 majority, we secured a contract with Atrium Health that would ensure hospital facilities and healthcare facilities in Monroe, while providing a cash payment of $55 million and an annual payment of $6 million to the county's budget. As a result of this transaction, Union County was able to build for cash a long-needed health and human services facility that will serve an expanding population well into the future. Our health and human services staff deal daily with the least of these and the major life challenges they face. If we don't offer dignity and a hand up versus a hand out, how can we expect change? Since at least 2000 and probably prior, there has been an awareness of the Catawba River as a finite resource and the need for Union County to locate and develop a water source to meet the needs of citizens and businesses in the Rocky River Yadkin PD Basin. The board majority in 2010 directed staff to locate and secure a reliable county-owned source of water for the basin that makes up 2/3 of Union County. The completion of the Yadkin project will soon be a reality. When I became commissioner in 2010, it had been 3 years since county employees had received a raise. A mandate was given, and under the leadership of Manager Cindy Cotto and Human Resources Manager Mark Watson, an evaluation and compensation program was instituted that is structured, fair, and continues to this day. I want to thank the many people who have assisted in our progress. County Managers Cindy Cotto and Mark Watson, Lynn West County Clerk, and the many department heads and employees throughout the organization, past and present, who make Union County work. Union County is a growing county, but I always monitor the number of staff per 1,000 residents. Union County remains lean in its delivery of county services. Another of the first actions we took in 2010 and 11 was to develop, under the guidance of the School of Government, a list of priorities for Union County. As a part of that process, public safety was identified as, and continues to be, number one. One of the hurdles we faced early on in 2010 was an outdated system of fire funding. I want to personally thank Johnny Bly, Don Gaddy, Mike Lathan, Robert Sweat, Graham McManus, Steve McClendon, Travis Stegall, Greg Sharp, Kevin Fillman, Monty Taylor, Charlie Porter, John Moore, Ron Richardson, Andy Williams, Torrance Lee, Junior Honeycutt, and David Smith, along with Ron Fowler in the city of Monroe, our fire chiefs and the firemen they represent. For me, these men and their volunteers are the tip of the spear in our county and deserve to be recognized and thanked. They have a passion for what they do, and they watch over us from Marvin to Marshall and from New Salem to Jackson 24/7. Emergency services was reformed and a new delivery system implemented. As with everything, there are unintended consequences and growing pains. I look forward to the new board addressing this issue to ensure an ever-improving and quick response to emergencies impacting the life and health of our citizens. I want to thank Sheriff Cathy and his staff, Chief Deputies Ben Bailey, Todd Elmore, Tony Underwood, and Greg Thomas, along with the hundreds in the department who serve to defend and protect every day. Sheriff Cathy is a popular elected official who could demand a lot if he chose. He's an unselfish servant who on numerous occasions has compromised his needs in order to serve in the county's best interest. Sheriff, I thank you for that. Crystal Gilliard has done a yeoman's job as Register of Deeds. Her and her staff have, in the face of a huge workload and number of transactions, served the county extremely well. My great-grandfather, James Calvin Huey, and my uncle, David Simpson, served as Union County Clerk of Court. I am going to claim J.R. Rowell as my cousin, just to keep the stellar record in the family. Thank you, J.R. I'd be remiss if I did not thank the sweet Union Republican women publicly. Under the leadership of Diane Pomacance, they are out there working every election, educating the public on the critical role our judiciary plays in our government. Union County fights a battle on a daily basis for a balance of industrial versus and commercial versus residential tax base. I remember an early meeting with Clark Goodwin and myself at Showmars on 74, where we pledged to join together the City of Monroe and Union County in developing a premier economic development initiative. It has been a huge success, and I want to thank Chris Platay, the City of Monroe, and the Union County Board of Commissioners for their efforts in moving this forward. Over the last 12 years, I have had the privilege of serving with a dynamic group of county commissioners: Todd Johnson, Jonathan Thomas, Tracy Keeler, Kim Rogers, Frank Akmus, Richard Helms, Lance Simpson, Barbara Harrison, Stoney Rushing, David Williams, and Dennis Ray. In thinking of these relationships, I'm reminded of the activity of the geese and how they travel. As geese migrate from summer to winter habitat, they fly in a V-shaped formation. A lone goose at the point of the V leads the group towards their destination. At some point, the lead goose drops back into the formation and another goose moves to the front. The lift generated by the flock flying in unison eases the drag on the others, allowing the journey to be more efficient and successful. The Board of County Commissioners is similar in that each year we choose a chairman that leads us toward our destination. We have differences of opinion occasionally, but for the most part agree on the direction. It is the board as an entity that makes the final decisions. I'm grateful for the passions and expertise that each of my colleagues have afforded our journey over the last 12 years. Every few years, as time has it, we have a changing of the guard with different passions and priorities, and it will be no different on the coming board. I have confidence in the abilities of Melissa, Brian, and Stoney, and encourage them to take advantage of the experience of Richard and David in moving Union County forward. We're often reminded that as a sitting commissioner, we cannot tie the hands of future boards, but I can at least offer some advice. I pledged as a point of my campaign in 2010 that I would restore professionalism and decorum to the board. With a few exceptions, I believe we have succeeded. I recall an experience in my first year while serving as chairman that I was asked to speak to a group of third graders at one of our elementary schools. After a brief introduction into my role as a commissioner, I opened it up to questions. One young man was quick to raise his hand and ask, "Why are you wearing a suit and tie?" I explained to the class that being elected to public service and swearing allegiance to the laws and constitutions of the state and nation was a solemn promise. Dressing appropriately by wearing a suit was my showing respect to that vow and to each and every citizen, their concerns and opinions that I represented. As a board member, it's important to separate the issue from the individual. Focus on policy, not on personalities. Intelligent discourse is what brings about debate, builds consensus, and makes us stronger. Secondly, we are a nation of laws and not of men. I want to thank Jeff Crook, Ligon Bundy, Richard Long, and Jason Kay for on several occasions taking my ego and my opinion and putting it exactly where it belonged. North Carolina is a subdivision of the state and ruled by the legislatures. Boards of county commissioners must operate under these laws. Lastly, I want to thank the citizens of Union County for your faith in me by electing me for 3 consecutive terms. I'm sure there are some in the county who have been disappointed in me at times, and if it brings you any consolation, there are times on occasion when I've been disappointed in myself. I, by nature, am an introvert and apologize for not being more outspoken, but my mother taught me early in life to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool rather than to open it and leave no doubt. Such is politics. My position, my vote over the years has been based on my principles, irregardless of politics or the parties involved, and with no outside influence for anyone that might be a corruption conspiracist. I voted for what I believe to be in the best interest of Union County and its citizens now and in the future. I recall that in my comments when elected chairman in 2010, I used a quote from the Apostle Paul, and I will reference it again as I close. It is from Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 8. It says, "Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things." Thank you for your confidence in me. God bless Union County, and God bless America. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jerry. I think you stole my speech because I'm left for things to say. I do have a few you didn't cover. I want to say ditto to everything you said. Sheila, Jerry told me when y'all got married that he had an aunt tell you, honey, don't try to outweigh the Simpson. And I was about thinking that right now. I thought this thing ain't never going to end. And the other question I have, you know, I told Jerry in closed session that me and David a lot of times say, what was he saying? I bet that third grader, when he asked you why you had a suit on and you told him, he thought, still don't know why he's got a suit on. But I have enjoyed being a commissioner for Union County. I can say my life is complete. I've enjoyed picking at each one of y'all. Smiling Lee, Chris Platay, my laser-focused Bjorn, Tracy Colley. I do septic tanks, and Tracy's still sort of my supervisor after I go out. So I've got to really be nice to her. Dennis Joyner, I came to respect you. Didn't even know about you really until COVID came. Ashley Lance on the other side of the building. You're amazing. You're one of the amazing women in Union County. Every director or department head that I know that's a woman, and people say you can't say this, but they are phenomenal. And sitting behind you is Beverly Lyles, I'm sorry. I knew her daddy and went to school with her aunt. She does it all. She gets the awards for financial records. She goes out and kills a deer. She cuts calves with horses. My mind went blank on Mr. Affleck there, but one day it hit me, he looks just like Ben Affleck. And Michelle told me a couple of days later that she said every time she looked at him, she thought that now. I've enjoyed picking with Patrick. He's younger than my youngest child, so he's like I call him the pup most of the time. Sometimes I call him and say, how are you doing? He said, I'm hanging on by a thread, and I know what that feels like. All the other employees in here that I didn't call you out, please don't take it personal. Michelle, I don't know why, but I really worried about what you were going to think of me when we first met. And I know she was always very open with me, and we've never had a cross word. And I asked her, she went out to eat with Cindy Cotto right after Mark started. And when she come back, I said, well, what did Cindy say? And Cindy said, well, what do you think of Mr. Raitt? And I said, well, what'd you say? She said, he's got a place in my heart. And that made me feel good. Lynn, I've known Lynn and her daddy and her brother for years. They grew up down in the southern part of Union County, where I'm from. And she is just such a value to this organization. Mark, you've been like a brother. I've enjoyed challenging y'all. I always thought of myself as a get-it-done person. I will tell this new board, we're giving you a AAA bond rating status. Please take care of it. I've heard people come in here and say that current water customers shouldn't pay for expansion, and I've got thousands of senior citizens that tell me, why do I have to pay school tax? I hadn't had a child in school in 40, 50 years. Well, as Jerry said, welcome to North Carolina, because basically, and Jerry told me this early on, 95% of our decisions are statutory and about 5% are personal choices. I'm going to close with a story. You know, I don't want to burn no bridges, so I'm going to be very kind to everybody. I read this story this weekend. It talked about an oak forest of 10,000 beautiful oak trees, and they could talk among themselves. And one morning they started noticing, well, there's 10 of us gone. And the next morning there'd be 10 more gone. And there was an axe laying up there against one of the trees, but it had an oak handle. And they said, do you know what's going on? And the axe said, no, I'm one of y'all. I've got an oak handle. And the truth was, the one friend among them was destroying the forest. Union County is a special place. It functioned and became what it did before I came to office, and it will function after this last meeting. But I am so proud. I have never seen professionalism in an organization, and I've served in two, and I'm not putting the schools down. I just admire what goes on here. The standard for achievement is set so high, and we're not perfect. We make mistakes, but when we make a mistake, we try to correct it. Now, I want to say one more thing, and this has nothing to do. This has to do with Susie Calkins. Her daughter is on the Union Academy girls volleyball team. And they won the second straight title on Saturday, November the 5th, at Reynolds Coliseum at NC State. I want to congratulate the volleyball team at Union Academy Charter School by becoming the first program in Union County history to win back-to-back state titles in volleyball. And I pick at Susie all the time. She basically runs this whole building because she knows everything that's going on every floor, and yet she's in charge of everything and not responsible for nothing but bookkeeping. So, and I will say this, I did know Susie's daddy. He was a brick mason, and him and the Raitts were very good friends. Somebody had him come out to lay a well house, and Mr. Yao said, where do you want the well house at? And the guy picked up 4 rocks, and he said, well, I want one corner over there, and one corner over there, one corner back there, and one corner back there. Susie's daddy picked up a rock and said, you want it about that high? In other words, he threw the rock in the air, and the guy said, yeah. Y'all are very professional. I feel privileged to have served y'all as your commissioner. And with that, I make a motion that we adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.